Hey, howdy-ho, Lions fans. Welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast. This is episode 231. This is the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit. I am your dashing host, Chris, and with me is my good friend and co-host, Case. How you doing, my man?
Chris, I'm not great. I had my car broken into this last week, a couple days ago here, and I'm feeling very violated.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's probably an easier form of being violated than what I sometimes expect, but that's bad news, but I'm sorry for you. Today's show, we're going to go in depth on the Packers. We're going to go all about the Packers. We're going to take a look ahead of the game, and we're also going to do something that may become a new segment. We'll see what the feedback is. Call it the threat assessment. So we'll take a look there. Also, we're going to go into Matthew Stafford's all-time stats because it's the bye week and there wasn't a whole lot of stats to talk about from last week. We're going to give you the early injury report, what to look, and we're going to take you in deep around the division. A whole lot more. We got a great show lined up. Case, you ready to go, my man?
Well, I know we hadn't talked about this on the show, but I'm in Chicago right now, and I got a couple of tickets to the Bears game, mostly just because I wanted to go and boo. But when they broke into my car, they left 4 more.
Let's kick this off and break it down.
All right. Check us out and help us out on Patreon. Special thanks to Dylan from
Go on.
That's right. Of course, our very first donor, Mathis, and Brian B. from I Prevail. Brian Burkheiser, iprevailband.com. Check them out. They're still on tour. Case is going to go see them. Go see them. You don't want to miss them. They're all over the place. iprevailband.com. You can join all those folks in the Slack with us, the most intelligent Lions chat on the internet. Even Dean saw it and said so. I mean, he again also thought maybe the bar wasn't so high, but it's a great place to be. Our Slack is literally the best chat you want during the game. The game threads are great. After the game, post game, the whole thing. It's a really great place to be. Get all kinds of insider scoops and deals and so on. Check it out. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. You sign up there. It's safe. It's not a scam site or anything like that. And, you know, it's out there for creators. It's a great way to support people. And you can set up a monthly donation, $1, $5, $100, whatever you can afford. And we'll get you in there and you'll have access to all that great stuff. And you'll support the boys that you know and love. Give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/The Detroit Lions podcast. And we're on Instagram. You know what we're doing, Case?
What are we doing?
Last I looked, we're at 69 followers. We've been doing this now for like a week and a half. I almost didn't want to get any more, but we're trying to see how many followers we can get without doing a single post. I think it'd be kind of fun to see if we can get you guys. You got to check out the YouTube. Case's cat is totally fucking with this video. Anyway, check us out on Instagram, Detroit Lions podcast. Follow us. We'll see how many followers we can get. And I think I have a little something that when I do finally do a post that will be appreciated. Also, check us out on Twitter at DET Lions Podcast. DET Lions Podcast, the very best place to see Case.
Wiping my ass with some cheddar.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. See Case's cat messing with his camera. YouTube.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. YouTube.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. We got a lot of great videos up there. We put the weekly video version of the show there. We also do our live post-game show, and we do some other stuff too. We had a great Dean Bledino video we did that was pretty fun, and some other cool stuff. YouTube.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. Subscribe. Hit the bell so you're notified when we go live. Rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're all the cool places. They're cool because we're there. Let people know you love it. Give us those 5-star reviews and help push us up the charts. Give us a call via Skype. Detroit Lions Podcast, all one word. Detroit Lions Podcast, or in the Lions line at 929-33-LIONS, 929-335-4667. I have to apologize. We had a couple of really good calls this week. I may put them out next week or do a quick takes later with Riz. This week has been insane for both Case and I. We've had no opportunity to get those on this show, so we'll get to those the best we can. So sorry for that call.
And just an apology on air to Tom Grassi of the Packcast. He wanted to have me on to talk about the game this week, and I got his email late on Monday, and I'd been working a double and saw it, but I immediately passed out and forgot completely about it, and so I'm going to miss getting on that show this time around. And hopefully, we talked about it. He seemed all right, said it's all right, and he understands. But hopefully, I'll be able to get on that show before Week 17.
And you can apologize.
We can give you, I will,
for another victory in Lambeau.
Right.
Tighten your chin straps, kids. It's time to review this week in Reddit.
All right, it's time to talk about all the fun and exciting things going down this week in Reddit. And what are we going to do? Let's talk about the intense action the Lions had on the bye week, the breaking news, the ongoing drama. Let's just look ahead to the Packers. How about that, Case? You good with that?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Plenty to talk about.
All right. I want to start with, I think, the most important part of this game, the divisional implications, because we're at a point where the Lions have been in a couple of times in the last couple of years. And I have to say, pretty unanimously, we failed when this has been the opportunity. We are truly in control of our destiny right now. If we win this game, we will be sole possession of first place in the NFC North.
By half game.
Yep.
No matter what else happens.
No matter what else happens, sole possession. And we'll have one victory. We'll be 1-0 in the division at that point. This is a key game for this team. It sucks it comes in Lambeau. It sucks that it comes against a team that we'll talk about has been looking better than we thought they were looking the weeks before. They seem to be a little bit on the rise, but they have a couple things going on too. Huge divisional implications, though. This is a game that it's early to say that it's a must win. But, a lot of people are true believers, but I believe we're still a Lions team and a fan base that are real quickly to shake out little market tension, and they'll shake out of the market, take their investment back. Lions win this game. I have a feeling people are all in and really believe in what could happen this year.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting tidbit. We are one of 3 teams, and I posted this in the. If you check the RNFL Power Rankings, this was what I put in there this week. We are one of 3 teams, including the Falcons and 49ers, who have yet to play a division game. So there's only 3 of those teams left in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
But the flip side of that is we're about to get a lot of them.
Yeah.
We've got 3 of them in the next 5 weeks. We've got the Packers and Vikings coming up the next 2 weeks. If we drop the Packers game, that doesn't mean we're out of the race, because it is in Lambeau and we will have a chance at revenge week 17 at home.
Yeah.
But if we were to lose both of those games, I mean, that would be crushing to our chances of the division. Not eliminate them entirely. Obviously, we all know, weird things can happen late in the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, if we can't win at least one of the next 2 games, and it would be preferable to win the one in Lambeau. If I had to pick one of the 2 that we were going to win, that would be the one.
I want to say something about the way the schedule's kind of played out for us here too, because I think it is in our favor. We had some tough games early, and that stunk. We had the bye week early, and that kind of stinks. But if you think 3 out of the 5 next games are division games right after our bye, where we had a chance to get healthy ahead of those games. And it's not the first couple games in the year. They're kind of a coin toss, as we saw in Arizona, and we saw some upsets. We have film on these guys now. We have an opportunity for our coaches to do some work on these guys. This, as much as it's a grind coming up here, and an important grind, this may work to our benefit in the kind of bigger picture of things. I kind of like where they're positioned for us, and it gives us, I think, the best chance possible to knock a couple of quick ones out. And boy, if we were to win 2 out of 3 of those, or 3 out of 3 of those, you talk about carrying a team. This team is the team, the town. Everybody believes at that point.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember who the other 2 teams in that 5-week span are. I think it might be the Raiders and the Giants. And while the Raiders beat the Bears, and we'll get into that in around the division, but I still don't think they're a team that we can't beat by any means. And the Giants definitely are a team we can beat. So, I mean, we could, if we came out of the next 5 games at either 3-5 or 4-1, I wouldn't be totally blown away by that happening. And B, that would set us up in really good shape as long as one of those wins is in the next 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. A lot to talk about. Okay, so there's the divisional implications. Again, we're in a really unique spot where we are truly in control of our destiny here. And I always, this is kind of a statement thing about what a team is made of always, and I always kind of look at it that way. And the Lions traditionally, at least in memorable recent history, have not made the right statement in these games, and it's about time they do. Right? Again, though, you think about how we've done in Lambeau. 3 out of the 4
last 4.
Yeah,
3 out of the last 4,
and a shutout the last time, right? So I don't think you can play trends or averages here. This is truly going to be a battle royale. Let's talk about the Packers, though. I saw the game against the Cowboys. I'm sure you did. Officiating did us no favors in really being able to assess what this was. It was the Chiefs and Lions were the talk of the town. We talked about it with Dean the week before. It wasn't like they threw the game one way or the other. It's just the officiating was trash the whole game. God.
And a big part of that was unforced errors by the Raiders. Some of that was forced errors by the Packers on the Raiders.
You mean the Cowboys?
Yes, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. Still stuck on that Bears Raiders thing.
You're thinking we're just signing AB, aren't you?
But yeah. But no, I mean, a big part of that was that the Cowboys just kept shooting themselves in the foot by doing dumb things over and over and over again. And it raises that question. And you can't really, if you want it one way, you can't have it both ways. But there was an element of luck to the Packers' win based on the Cowboys shooting themselves in the foot so many times, especially through those first three quarters.
I hope we get that Dak Prescott in our game.
Oh God, Dallas. I hope we do too. Now you can say, and I agree to an extent, that part of the reason that Dak was so off was the pressure that the Packers were getting on him. But even before they were getting pressure on him, even early in the game, that team was already committing unforced errors.
Yeah. Except for Amari Cooper. He just teabagged me. We'll talk about that.
Well, hey, yeah, we will get to that. He tried to teabag me too, but
that wasn't in the game. That's the locker room. All right, so yeah, that game. The Packers.
I'm all over the place. I'm in Dallas. I'm in Detroit. I'm in Chicago.
Break it in your car. Let's talk a little bit more about that game. The Packers. Yes, they were lucky. The Packers are always freaking lucky, though. Right? I mean, let's face it. If someone's going to be lucky in a game that the Packers are playing in, it seems like it's always going to be the Packers. It's just
every time we're good, the Packers are also good, and they drop seasons, but it's never when we have a chance. So
for sure. And so looking at them this week, they're definitely stepped above where they were the week before. Definite progression. This is not the battle LaFleur. LaFleur that I was hoping for, right? UFC 355 or whatever. This was not what I was hoping for this so far in the season out of them. Earlier in the season, seeing them play, when we saw them play the Bears, it was like, oh God, this is a team we can beat. Even when we tied the Raiders the Cardinals, it was like, no, we can do this. Neither one of those teams are very good. The Bears have continued to just pound sand. They're terrible. It's great to watch. Chase Daniels
we'll get there.
Is getting murdered. It's awesome. So they are who they are, but the Packers have definitely escalated their game, and I don't want to say I underestimated them, because I think I estimated them correctly as to where they are. They're just somewhere different now, and they present a real challenge for this team. Anything else besides their improved play against the Cowboys that you want to hit on from the Cowboys game in particular? Several things, quite a few things here.
Right. First of all, having just seen the way the game played out on Red Zone, I assumed that the Packers were completely dominating the game on the field. But when I actually went back and watched it, what I saw was that the Cowboys were doing just fine against them. They just were doing not very good against themselves. So the Packers pass rush was excellent. I'm not trying to take that away from them. That was excellent. Aaron Jones was excellent, and he scares me a lot as a guy that could do a lot of damage against us, both and specifically in the pass game. If we're not doing a good job of covering running backs on the flat or in screen game, he could do a lot of damage to us. But I do think there were a couple things that they didn't do well. And I do not think, so they came away with 3 interceptions. Mm-hmm. So me saying that I think their secondary is overrated might sound crazy. But literally in the entire game, I think I saw 1 pass breakup. All 3 interceptions were either bad throws by Dak, and then the one that was just a tipped pass that landed right in the hands of the cornerback. Mm-hmm. And I mean, being in the right place at the right time, I'm not saying that's not a valuable thing. I'm saying there's still an element of luck to that. When you get away with 3 of those in one game, and on top of that, they have 2 missed field goals, any one of those things goes the other way, especially any of those things in the first half, and you're looking at a very different game. And I'm not saying they wouldn't come away with the victory, because if you change the complexion of the game for one team, that doesn't mean the other team won't adjust. I'm just saying that, boy, did they get everything going their way in a way that I don't think they could rely on from a week-to-week standpoint.
Sure.
And I think that there was obviously that first interception, the one that tipped off the receiver's hands straight into the cornerback's hands.
No.
That's the kind of thing that's like, and it's, I'm not saying, we get those from time to time too. And even though I think our players have done a really good job of punching balls out, I think that's a skill. Actually having the ball bounce to where your guy is the one who recovers it is also a big part of luck.
Sure.
So we have gotten lucky, and like I said, you can't have it both ways. We can't be lucky and them, we can't be, just good and them just lucky, so I'm not trying to say that, but in that play, the chances of the Cowboys coming away with points on that drive instead of going the other way for a big return are very high, and that changes the entire complexion of the game. You get to the second half when they're up 21-3 or 24-3,
sure.
And that's, the Cowboys are forced to abandon their best weapon in the game, which is Ezekiel running back. Ezekiel.
He's changed his last name because he is. Ezekiel running back.
Anyway, they're forced to abandon going to the run. Mm-hmm. Because of the situation they're in, and that does not suit them. If that had not been the situation of the game, they could have easily continued to use their best weapon in the game and forced a very close game, or even possibly pulled ahead at any point. And I think that the Packers, given even just that moment of luck, and on top of that, both missed field goals were very impactful because either one of them could have changed.
Out there. No, it's you're really right, because much like the Lions KC game, there was a couple plays that flipped. It's like a 14-point swing, right? You're about to score 7, they get 7 instead. It was a similar situation in this game where it could have been a completely different game, and then they had to play a game, like you said, that wasn't their own. The luck and it just wasn't on their side. It could have been a completely different game. So while you want to highly credit Green Bay, and I don't want to give them less credit than they deserve, because they did look good in many ways out there, but they also did get pretty lucky. If you take that game, in by itself, you would think that the Dallas Cowboys are a terrible team and the Green Bay Packers an amazing team, but I don't know that that's the truth. I think it's one of those times where if you play this game 10 times, the Packers probably win it like 6 times. Yeah. And so it could go like you could go either way on it. Sure.
I don't think that they were dominant to the level that it necessarily looked like they were.
In the end, our game against them is a big game, and it's going to be a tough game, and we're going to have to play hard. And hopefully our run game, because the Packers against the run are not spectacular. That's how you're going to beat them. And they had to go away from that in Dallas. And that's the worst possible thing. They had to go against the strength of the Packers defense. And we can't get put in that position where we have to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be an uglier game.
One more note on the Packers that I think is an issue. And we're going to talk about the injury report in a little bit here. But if Devontae Adams is out again, we don't know. Turf toe is a weird thing.
I was going to say, even if he's not, turf toe is a weird thing.
I don't think the Packers have a very good receiving core. Aaron Rodgers can make some magic happen no matter who his receivers are, but there were still drops by them. There were still miscommunications. They're not a great group, and that they were able to get as much out of Aaron Jones as they were is really impressive. But
if you got him in fantasy, you were a happy man last week. Boy, that was a hell of a performance. Wouldn't expect it again, though. All right. So we got the Cowboys game. Really quick, I do want to mention that you can still get your FTP shirts. It's something the Packers, I forget what the F stands for, but well-known saying around the subreddit, FTP. Head over to DetroitLionsPodcast.com/store and you'll see the t-shirts there. We got them in guys shirts. We'll have a series of female shirts available probably by the last game of the season, so you can be prepped for that one as well. But fun shirt, great to wear to the game. Multiple colors, super comfortable. I think you just look good. So DetroitLionsPodcast.com/store. You get shirts, we got mugs, we got the whole thing. Got a good lineup of stuff there if you're looking for some fun Lions and Detroit Lions podcast gear. All right. Let's talk about the injuries. There's a number of injuries on the Packers. We talked a little bit about Davante Adams. Who else do they have that's feeling the sting of the 4 weeks of football so far, 5 weeks of football so far?
Well, it's tough to say exactly. It's tough to say exactly in large part for both teams because they both have quote unquote extended weeks just because the Packers get an extra day and obviously we're coming off our bye. The thing with the Packers is there's quite a few guys who are dealing with minor things. Obviously we talked about Adams. We know about turf toe. Anybody who remembers Javid Best and him with the turf toe remembers that it took him a while and by the time he fully recovered, he got concussed and,
might as well have been a Liz Frank.
So exactly. It's all variant on severity, and we just don't really know the severity. I'd say there's a good chance that he plays, that he suits up. Whether or not he's himself in terms of speed, in terms of what he can do on that foot, I don't know. Both of the Smiths, Za'Darius and Preston, missed a little bit of time in the game. I think they both finished the game, but whether or not either of them is 100% is a good question. Because if either of them is not playing at 100%, Za'Darius Smith has just been a wrecking ball this year. If he was not at 100%, that would help us out a lot. A big key to the game, obviously, like I said, is whether or not we can fend off their pass rush. We've been doing a relatively good job of that so far this year.
This is where the Jim Bob Cooter screen game might come in handy.
Yeah, and for sure. And the question for me then, on the flip side with the Lions is on Danny Amendola and TJ Hawkinson, because if neither of them is playing, I think we have an opportunity to take advantage of those type of things, to keep short passes in the game,
sure.
to keep them on their heels and prevent them from really committing to full out pass rush if we're just able to get the ball quick into good situations that pick up chunk yardage, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards a pop. And of course the run game plays into that too. If we are able to run it up the middle or run it outside with Ty around Za'Darius Smith, which that sounds dangerous to me too. But if we're able to effectively do a couple of those things, what I do like then is our ability to pass downfield, because like I said, I really do think that the Dallas wide receivers were not having a problem overall with the Packers secondary. It's just a matter of giving them enough time to let that develop. Obviously, it's weird to do a show during the bye week for this team because we don't know
this early
anything. We don't know anything. We might not know till Thursday, and I think that's probably given that we have a Monday game when the first injury report comes out is Thursday, I think. So everybody's up in arms. I can't tell you how many people have asked on the subreddit, how many people have asked in the Slack, how many people are just like, we're dying for information, and we just don't know. We won't know because this team doesn't like to, tell more than they have to. And I mean, while that's frustrating for fans, I understand. I still think that's a good strategy. But we've got a plethora of guys that we're worried about. We're worried about Danny coming back. We're worried about TJ Hawkinson. We're worried about, we're not so much worried as we're hopeful that Deshaun Hand will be back to give us a little bit of extra depth there.
It's going to feel a lot like Uncut Day, where you're this gives in the Slack, where you're F5ing like crazy on injury day, on injury report day, right? You're just going to be, and both teams are going to be, you just got to watch. You got to see what's going on. This is going to be one of the keys of the game. If Davante Adams is out there and Slay is not, we could be in big trouble. Yeah, or vice versa. We could be in great shape, right? Did a lot of help.
Right. If Darius Slay is out there and Davante Adams is not, that would be huge.
And you think about Hawk coming back, his ability to help block, his ability to give Stafford an outlet in the face of the rush. The other piece is if this was Jim Bob Cooter's offense, the Packers would be absolutely scheming against screenplays. I'll try to say that 5 times fast. And, because that's all we had. And now it's a kind of a different game, and they're looking at a different offense. So that gives us a little bit an ability to open that up as a way to slow down the pass rush or mitigate the rush. So we have a couple of tools at our disposal, and Darrell Bevel's a much, much smarter man than JBC ever was. So I think this gives us some at least football mind. No, I hadn't heard any reports of him showing up in his underwear through anyone's windows either. So I'm going to just stick with he's a smarter man. This gives us some good angles for this team and some good opportunity. We've seen a great team who's played well against its opponents all this year. We saw the Indianapolis Colts completely change their defensive style against the Kansas City Chiefs to emulate what the Lions did, and they pulled the win out. Would surprise the heck out of me. And then, of course, after that, you think, well, are we just not good enough? Are we not as good as the Colts? Right? Is that what happened? And they just played our D better and won? That's not what it is, right? Because every week's a little different. But anyway, there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to in this team. And I'm really excited about this game and seeing what this team does against the Packers. And the fact that it's a Monday night is going to make it even crazier. Yep.
No argument at all. I think for most people, they're looking at this game still as the Lions as being massive underdogs. But as we've seen through the whole season, what we've been able to do is consistently play to the level of our opponent and consistently adapt to what our opponent likes to do. And if that is, and I'm not saying that's going to work every week, because it hasn't worked every week. We lost the Chiefs despite adapting pretty well to what they wanted to do. We were close and we could have come away with a win. It was certainly, it was certainly within our grasp. Yeah. But the big surprise for me, I guess, would be if that's not the case again, if this is not a game that we could win, not necessarily that we will, but that we will be right there at some point late in the game. We'll be right there and have the opportunity. Yeah. Unless we, like the Cowboys, completely have a meltdown in the first half and let them get out to a 24-point lead. That's it. It's not like we've never seen a comeback from the Lions like that. But no, you can't. So as long as they avoid that, then we'll be in the game. Yeah,
it's gonna be fun. Now the problem we have is it's a Monday night game, and we got these stupid things called jobs. Because not enough you people
are Patreon.
No, I'm just joking. No, so we're not going to do a live post-game show like we normally do. And it stinks because this is 2 weeks in a row because of the bye week. Now we have a Monday night game. We're not going to be able to do it, but we'll be back. We're looking at Tuesday, right, Case? Next week for the show again?
We'll see.
All right. We're shooting for it. It's Tuesday or Wednesday it'll be. All right, so we talked a little bit teased a little bit about the threat assessment up front. Have we been doing that already? Have we already been diving into that, or did you have a couple pieces you want to talk about strengths for us against them, strengths for them against us?
Well, I think we mostly covered it. Like I maybe I re-mentioned this, that I'm always scared by teams that effectively use their running backs in the pass game against us because I'm concerned about our linebackers. They've been doing better this year overall than they did last year, but I do still think it is a concern for me. I do think I would like to see what happens with Tracy Walker on Jimmy Graham to see if he can hold him in check. Jimmy Graham is no longer, he's been having an okay year.
But he's been
having an okay year. But if Tracy Walker can hold him, that would be nice. Aaron Rodgers is a lot like a lot of the other quarterbacks we've played this year. He's a guy that we want to keep in the pocket. Keep him in the pocket. We don't need to hit him. We don't need to pressure him every down. We need to keep him in the pocket and keep good coverage.
And that's, I think, one of the reasons a lot of teams have lost against him, because you get so hungry to hit him. You
dial in,
and then he
makes something miraculous happen outside the pocket.
Out. It's cover and contain. It's the same defense, very close to the same defense that we played against Kansas City to play against this Packers team. You don't have to hit Rodgers. It's fun when you do, because you do take him out of his game, but do not sacrifice your role and your position on the contain in order to let him slip by you because you thought you could get a hit on him. You've got to keep him in that pocket and collapse the pocket around him and then make him make throws that he's not comfortable with. When he can't roll out, he can't change the angle where the ball's coming from either. So your backs are a lot more comfortable in their coverage and where the ball's coming from and all those kinds of things. Cover and contain. That's the words of the week again for this game. So
now, obviously, on the offense for us, we want to see Kerryon have another big week. We saw what happened last week when he didn't have to face 8-man box again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a week and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
What he can do, obviously, he's still as talented as he ever was. Not having that pressure to face ridiculous, effort got him extra space. I don't know what we'll see from the defense against him this week, but if we can effectively run up the middle, then we can neutralize their, we can put them on their heels on the pass rush. We can effectively use the play action, which I'm glad we saw more of last week. I still think, I do think Stafford is really good at the play action. I don't know that he's great at selling it, but after he's got the space, he's very effective with that small amount of extra time.
I was when you said you don't know how great he is at selling it, I was thinking the exact same thing. And all the stats say how great he is at play action, how great the Lions perform on play action. But there's one move that there's a few quarterbacks, Favre used to do it. When you do hand the ball off, and you turn back and you do the arm motion like you're throwing the ball, right? And freeze in the secondary where they thought you did play action. It's like a reverse play action, right? You fake throwing the ball. I love that. I love when a quarterback goes to that level to sell it because it freezes the defense just a little bit and gives you that same kind of an opportunity to fool them about what your play is. Like I said, reverse play action. But the play action, if he could sell that, I would absolutely love that. So,
but
all in.
But he is, effective in the play action. Even if he doesn't necessarily sell it great, he is still effective in it. So I don't know. Somebody else figure that out for me exactly how that works out. But,
and when we get Riz on, we got to talk to him about that because there's probably a very sensible reason. Beyond everyone's favorite magazine, Sensible Chuckle. There's probably a sensible reason because if he does try to sell it, it might be some other kind of tell in the way he does it, right? It's some skill that he doesn't possess or a tell that he has or something that may be part of the reason why they don't do that. But there's still having
that extra moment of time that he typically gets from the play action seems to give him what he needs to deliver the ball one way or the other. So I appreciate that. Like I said, I do think it's likely to be a good day for either or both of Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones. I think they can both abuse the Packers secondary. I really don't think that the Packers I don't necessarily think King and Alexander are bad cornerbacks. I just think they're highly overrated. And you saw what Amari Cooper did to him. You saw what Gallup was able to do to them when they went to him. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't quite have what Gallup is in the speed aspect. And Amari Cooper is probably better than either of our guys by a margin. But at the same time, we do have two very good outside wide receivers, and we have a better quarterback than they do. So at least in terms of accuracy,
right. And we've seen Kerryon run some routes as well. So we have. Absolutely. You start walking down their depth chart on coverage. They're not starting at a really high level, and that falls off as you walk down. So we should find guys that are open and that making good catches and getting good yards out of this. It's how is that OL going to hold up, right?
Yep.
That line is if they can give Stafford the time, there'll be a lot of really good stuff. Speaking of Stafford. Well, before we speak of Stafford, I'm wondering, maybe you don't have a Matthew Stafford jersey yet. Maybe you're sitting around, you're not quite sold on this guy. You're like, I want to see another season before I really go all in and get a jersey, right?
Is the team really going to commit to him?
Yeah, I don't know. And so you're thinking about it. Well, I'm telling you, the time is now. Go to fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com. Go get your Stafford jersey. Go get your Lions t-shirt. Go get your Tracy Walker jersey. There's a good one to carry around right now. That's a good looking jersey and a great player. Support your players, support your team. It doesn't have to be the Lions. It can be your college teams. It can be hockey. You got hockey kicking off here. You got the NBA. You got all that excitement going on in the NBA right now with all their tweets and China and everything else. Join in the fun. Get a jersey. Be part of the, maybe you can, have a special one made, whatever you want to do. Go to fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com. Pick up all your sports memorabilia, jerseys, blankets, anything you can think of. And you do that, you support the show. It takes you right there. No funny stuff, but sets a cookie and it gives us a chunk of their profit. Helps gives us a kickback for sending you there. They say thanks. We say thanks. And it's a great way to support the show by doing something you're going to do anyway. Fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com. All right, Matthew Stafford. While everyone's going and getting their jerseys right now, let's talk about some of his all-time stats. Because if you're not in Detroit, very quietly, Matthew Stafford has just walked his way up the charts to the upper realm of quarterbacks in the NFL of all time, I think. And we'll talk about some of those things now. We'll kind of elucidate on that. But he's thrown for a couple yards already, hasn't he? Has he broken 10,000? Has he broken 20,000?
A little bit.
Has he broken 30,000?
Well, this week he has the potential to break 40,000 yards. He probably won't move into the top 20 this week as Johnny Unitas sits at number 20 with 40,239. And Stafford has 39,648. So I mean, we're talking about an 800 or 700 yard game.
That's okay.
But
I'm good with it. Okay.
But it would not be shocking if in the next 2-3 weeks that Matthew Stafford moved himself into the top 20 all-time passing yards, sitting right behind Joe Montana at 19. Where he will almost certainly move up in another week or two after that. By the end of the season,
was pretty good, wasn't he?
Yep. Yeah, a little bit. By the end of the season, if we're thinking that he might have, 3,000 more yards this year or more, he has the possibility to move into 17th place, beating out Dan Fouts and Kerry Collins and Joe Montana and Johnny Unitas. So that would put him right behind Drew Bledsoe and Vinny Testaverde.
I've heard of those guys.
And so he is the youngest player and will be the youngest player to reach 40K in the fewest amount of games, I might add.
We should trade this guy. He doesn't sound that good.
Yeah. So that's interesting. If we look at the touchdowns, he is at 246 right now. He is 1 behind Boomer Esiason and 2 behind Tony Romo. So he's number 24, and those guys are 23 and 22. So if he gets 3 touchdowns, he'll move into 22nd. Drew Bledsoe is 251, and Dan Fouts is Drew Bledsoe is 251, and Dan Fouts is 254. So if he gets 10 more, I should say Sonny Jurgensen. There you go. There's a old school. Wow, Sonny doing it back in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
You just keep going.
So if he gets 10 more this year, which I think we should probably safely assume he can get 10 more touchdowns, he'd move into 19th place. Another 5 on top of that would tie him with Dave Krieg at 18. So we're talking about moving significantly up into the top 20 on both of those lists this year. Joe Montana, boy, if he gets 20 more, if he gets 17 more, he'll tie Joe Montana.
Jeez, that's awesome. It's something. I have to make a quick side note for everybody. Case has got a voice changer. It seems like his voice dropped like half an octave. It sounds like maybe you grew a little down below. But it's just happening. And again, we're still looking at anyone who knows a good discount on laptops. Get us a call. All right. Keep going with our stats.
Sorry about that then, guys. He is also climbing the list all time on interceptions, but you'd be surprised. He's way down that list compared to where he's about to break the top 20s in yards and touchdowns. He might break the top. I mean, if he gets 4 more interceptions, he'll break the top 70 in interceptions. So, I mean, if you compare that to the touchdown and the yardage, it's not bad.
No, not at all.
Not bad.
No. I don't know. You think we should trade him? I've heard
he's moved ahead. He moved it.
he's moved ahead of Joe Flacco. Like he and Joe Flacco were kind of neck and neck there for a minute.
But what about
yards? So it's not surprising that he has, but
team wins. Well, what's his stat on team wins against playoff teams or teams of the world?
It improved last year. I think he got 2 or 3 last year. That improved his percentage significantly.
I'm trying to think of some of the other stupid narratives that I've heard that I want to lean into.
It's still not great. I mean, his percentage in those games still isn't great, but all it takes is 1 year to majorly improve your percentage on that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm just looking. I hope beyond.
Chargers and Eagles could both have winning seasons this year too.
Beyond my love for the Lions,
another 2.
I want to see him celebrated in Detroit with that Super Bowl win. He's the guy I think that really kind of displays the quality that hardworking kind of mentality of Detroit, that sensibility of Detroit. The guy who comes to work, busts his ass every day, does everything he can to win. I feel like he's
the Frank Gore of running back or of quarterback.
He's the face of the city when they finally take home a Super Bowl. He is just the ideal guy. I mean, and it's one of those things like Stevie Y was for the Cup. The Red Wings teams. He was the perfect guy. I mean, I remember seeing Stevie Y play when they were giving away Jeep Wranglers at Joe Louis Arena when the crowds were like 3,000 people and no one would show up. Every game they would give away a Jeep Wrangler, trying to spur attendance to the hockey games. What he got there. And he did it all. He was really that kind of guy. And this is what Stafford could be. This is the one guy who deserves that kind of just to be able to walk away at the end of his career and have that kind of love from a city. Would be just, he's the guy. I just love this guy. He deserves it. So beyond the whole Lions fan, want to see him win the Super Bowl thing. He's a very deserving fellow. So there you go. All right. Any other stats you had on the staff man?
No, I mean, there's plenty more to go through at some time, but I just like to check in every once in a while on where he's doing career-wise in the standings. Because I mean, if you talk about him playing another possible 10 years, he could be easily top 5.
I'm laughing.
Both of those categories.
You sound like the Liberty Mutual commercial where they black the guy out.
Am I still?
Yeah. Where they black the guy's face out. Like he's like, and they do the flash. You can see him.
I'm in witness protection over here, Chris.
It sounds like. All right, let's move on. Because you can't see him in the video anymore because he's been darked out and he's in his witness protection program. Let's talk a little about the fantasy of Case. I want to just really quick, we're not a fantasy show. We're not going to go into it, but we do want to reflect on it because it's, a lot of people play and it's
been wild week.
It was a bye week and it was a crazy week. I just want to say, typically, I'm one of the top teams in my fantasy league. And in the DLP league, I'm in second place right now. Second place. But I'm 9th overall because I have the same record as everyone else who's in second place, but I have the fewest points scored total. And I've recognized it here in the last 2 weeks. I've played the worst teams in the league the first couple weeks of the season. And the guy who beat me this week was 0-4. I was 3-1. And he only had scored 20 points less than me in the league in the season so far. And he came in and he just curb stomped. Of course, Nick Chubb showed up on a team that he didn't show up on a team that didn't show up. So that hurt. But so that was a crazy week. And so you say, okay, well, that happens. Sometimes you draft a team or the way things fall, maybe an injury or whatever messes up a fantasy team where you're otherwise a good player. Right? It's not all in your control. So you go to the pick'em, right? And I think in the pick'em league I'm in, there's like 18 people. And I'm like number 16, 17, could be 18. I don't know what in the hell has happened.
Man, if you were just picking the favorites on every game, you'd be doing way better.
I do not know. I took the Rams. The Rams seemed like, and then Greg the leg over on that one. I'm not having as much fun this year. And then I'll tell you really quick, my dynasty league that I've been a member of for 17, 18, 20 years, somewhere around there. I didn't get my picks in, my keepers in time. And then the commissioner said, oh yeah, don't worry. I'll let you keep them. I'm like, okay, cool. And I went to set them and it was after the second deadline he had. And it was like the draft day. We were drafting at like 9 that night. I messaged him, come on, man. You gotta let me do my keepers. He didn't get my message. I didn't get my keepers this year. My team's like a completely new drafted team. And I'm just like done with that league. I'm signing off after this year. I'm so angry. It's my own fault, right? But I'll hand the team off to somebody else to nurture. But I had Aaron Rodgers. I had Carry-On. I had Matthew Stafford. I had Tom Brady. My strategy on quarterbacks was partial denial strategy as well. God, who else did I have? I had a really, really good team. I was going to see some serious love this year, and now I'm heartbroken about what could have been. Okay, that's it. I'll lament. Tell me about your fantasy there. Wait, hold on. Your fantasy football. Tell me about your fantasy football case. What's going on with all that?
Well, despite the fact that I have Russell Wilson and Christian McCaffrey, who
somebody grabbed McCaffrey before me this year, like the round, and I was like, sensible ribbing. I wanted him, darn it. And now I'm just like, I would really murder that guy if I saw him in real life.
I had the second overall pick, so I mean, it wasn't a surprise that I got him. But despite the fact that I have those guys, the rest of my roster did absolute shit. And then Amari Cooper went off, especially Mike Evans. Fuck you, Mike Evans. But
I will never pick Mike Evans. I don't care. I've had him before, and fuck you, Mike Evans is probably one of the most frequent fantasy sayings I've uttered.
Until Amari Cooper went off, I was still going to win. Amari Cooper went off, and then all I had left, the only player I had left, was Matt Breida. And I thought, there's no fucking way he's going to score more than 15 points.
No way.
Well, first play of scrimmage for the 49ers, 83-yard touchdown. I'm like,
I hate playing against you. And people like you.
So there's that. And then I'm currently the RNFL mod pick'em league that I've been in for years now, that I win almost every year. I am currently in third place, but I'm employing my strategy that I employ every year. And that is, I'm not going for the big win. I'm just going for consistency, because somebody will fuck up. And so I'm in third place. I'm 2 behind the lead, and I will overtake. And once I overtake, you're not going to catch up to me, because then you're going to start making mistakes. That's some. I do want to throw out a little piece of advice to people. If
Chris in your
by
league.
if by some chance the Buffalo Bills get dropped by somebody this week because they have a bye next week, for God's sake, pick them up and stash them. Their schedule coming out of the bye, they've got Miami. Okay, then they have Philly, but then they have Washington and Cleveland and Miami again. For God's sake, pick up the Buffalo defense if you get the opportunity. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks for that. Let me just check on my league, the DLP league here, before we post this for everybody else. It was a bad week, Detroit Lions. Yeah, I know. Thanks a lot. Let's see, what do I got? I got the Chargers and the Patriots on defense. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sitting on the Cowboys for this week against the Jets, and then I'll drop the Cowboys and run with the Bills for the next 5 weeks. My best play ever was the Patriots against Miami. Well, yeah, no, obviously. You have the Patriots defense? Because I wish I did. Yeah, I do. All right, there you go. That's your fantasy. Remember, fantasy is fun, and you've got a lot of fantasies coming up because it's Halloween, and you're going to be dressing up in all kinds of stuff, and there's inside the house dress up, and there's outside the house dress up, and you can get all that kind of great stuff at amazon.detroitlionspodcast.com. Just head on over there, and it'll take you right to the site. Throws a little cookie, keeps Jeff Bezos from getting richer off of us poor working stiffs, and it takes a little money out of his pocket and puts it in ours, and helps us be able to run the podcast and do our thing. Amazon.detroitlionspodcast.com. Looking at Halloween, getting all your candy, getting all your costumes, getting all your goods to do your dress up and dress up your house and apartments. Head on over to Amazon.detroitlionspodcast.com so we can get a little piece of something by you doing something you were going to do anyway. All right, into the early injury report. We got this stuff going on with this guy named Hawkinson. We talked a little bit about him. Got this great Hawkamania shirt that now I'm worried if it might be a little cursed because we came out with it. He had a non-game, and then he had a great game and got hurt. And it's like, but Hawkinson is injured. What do we know about TJ Hawkinson and the Lions this week? Are we going to see him on the field against these Packers?
We know jack shit.
No. Let's check with Lions Insider. Case.
You've seen Spaceballs. We ain't found shit.
Exactly.
No, it looked kind of nasty. I feel like if he was, if he was suffering some kind of major medical situation, we'd know, and that's a good sign. If he'd been hospitalized or anything like that, we'd know. So those are good signs. It's as far as I remember, I don't remember ever hearing about him having a concussion before, so that's a good thing. Whether or not it even ended up being proven to be a concussion, we don't know. It may have just been he might have gotten knocked out, but getting knocked out isn't necessarily the same thing as a concussion. There's a lot we don't know. And I've said repeatedly on this show that there's no faster way to my heart than a guy hurdling a guy. But Jesus Christ, do it.
That's going to stop. I'm telling you, Matt Patricia has already put a poster up.
I don't know, man. The way he telegraphed that he was about to do it, I think, was the bigger problem that he did it. It was not that much different from Vernon Davis doing it the other week when he took like 5 steps and showed that he was about to leap, and so that was my impression of it. But so I love that kind of effort to get the extra. Mm-hmm. I think that I'm not sure that in that particular situation that was the wisest move.
I'm going to tell you something on that one. Where they get in the HR room, they get the material safety data sheets, they got the whole workers' rights stuff and all the legal stuff. There's a giant poster in the Lions facility right now. Don't hurdle any motherfuckers. That's what it says. And it's got Patricia pointing at him with an angry face because Logan Thomas did it earlier, right? Okay, so Hawk did it and he got all kinds of love out of it the week before, right? Or week 1.
And it's been going around the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, so then Logan Thomas did it in the game against Kansas City, right? And he didn't quite get over, right? And Hawkinson, there's 2 things that happened. And I'm not trying to be insulting to him, so don't, but it's just the vernacular here. You're right. He absolutely telegraphed that he was going to do it. And the way he did it, I still picture it in my head. And I go back and it just paints this on it. He's got this big dumb face with a smile on it going, look what I'm going to do. Right. I mean, it was just so damn obvious. And it's like, I feel horrible that the kid, I mean, beyond being a great player and our first round pick and all that kid took that kind of a hit, right? I mean, he's young and those are really, really big deals. You hate to see good young players. You hate to see anybody take that kind of a shot to the head, except maybe Vontaze Burfict. But you just don't like to see that kind of a thing. And God, I think that they're being told don't do it anymore. It's just too risky. You don't have any control once you're up in the air. We've seen guys get windmilled and everything else, and then you got to figure out how you're going to come down. How are you going to control the ball when you're out of control up in the air? The second guy in takes it, right? It's just so dangerous. It's fun. It's exciting. It's a great Sports Center kind of play, but I guarantee don't hurdle any motherfuckers is right there next to the material safety data sheet in the locker room there. I'm telling you. And you talk about getting knocked out. Did you see Mason Rudolph?
Oh, Jesus. It reminded me of the Teddy Bridgewater when Teddy took a nap on the field several years ago for the Vikings. That was, and they just did the thing that was like, they zoomed in the national camera on Teddy's face as he's just like snoring. Like, that's what it reminded me of, 100%.
Yeah, no good. All right. So, we don't know a whole lot here on this one, and the Lions are not very outward about this stuff, but Hawkinson's going to
we'll start to figure things out later this week. We'll know, Thursday, Friday,
refresh on the report, but Hawk is a key piece for this team, especially when we get that, we talk about the pass rush from the Packers. He's going to be a key piece to slow that rush down and give us some help. So give some blocking on the ends and keep some linebackers busy. All right, let's talk about Mike Daniels. Here's a guy, sure would be nice to see him line up against the team that he didn't sign with, wouldn't it?
Right. Yeah, it would. It's one of those vindication games, and that can go both ways because players who are playing against him might also feel similarly and be extra into it or whatever. But if he comes in with a chip on his shoulder, he's certainly in the past proven to do things. And boy, wouldn't it be fun to watch him get a sack on Aaron Rodgers? Like, can you imagine his celebration if he got a sack on Aaron Rodgers? That would
his celebration might be having a sack on Aaron Rodgers.
Right. It's a teabag, up, down type
just a
situation.
Team Fortress situation, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Mike Daniels, and while he hasn't been named a lot, he was been a pretty decent part of this defense when he's been on the field. He's been taking up bodies and letting some of the other guys get in there. And we got Jared Davis back, who, we got to get Brett Whitefield on, because we had a call directly talking about him, and PFF's talking what they have against Jared Davis. I'd love to have him make his case for grading him so low. But we got Jared Davis back. He's one of the guys that's going to help us with that pressure while Mike Daniels is holding people up. But there's somebody else out there that we would love to get back, and there's been rumors that maybe he could be back. Deshaun Hand. I think he's key to a pass rush for us, and having him on the field would be a really, really big plus. A lot of people pointing their nose to, like, saying this is a possibility that this is when he's coming back. What do you think?
All signs pointed in that direction before the bye, so I have no reason to believe that's not going to happen. Jesus, we're in a wasteland of information right now. I haven't heard anything from anyone anywhere. There's no Twitter speculation of any value going on. There's been nothing that I've picked up on. Now, if we talk to Jeff Risdon, maybe he's heard some twittering, here and there, whatever. But it is just a complete wasteland. So I would love nothing more to give you guys a scoop on what I expect to have happen with any of these guys. But like I said, Hand, I feel like it trending in the right direction. Mike Daniels, it was speculated before that he might take a little bit more time, but that was pure speculation at that point. Jared Davis was back, but not 100%. So you expect, with a week off, you expect him to be closer to 100%. Slay is up in the air for sure. But I would be, I'd be like 75% optimistic that he's coming back. There's just Danny Amendola is in the concussion protocol as well, I believe, or was it a chest injury or both? He's a 50-50. I have no idea what to expect. If he's back, I expect that he'll be about 100%. If he's not back, then when he does come back, I think he'll be 100%, but it'll just be a matter of time. It is so tough, so incredibly tough at this moment in time to predict these.
Yeah.
Not used to having these bye weeks so early. I think we did one or twice the last few years, but we didn't have quite so many injuries that we had to cover in that amount of time. So
yeah, I have to get something here. Something else came this week from who's our favorite male friend? MAIL. Sorry. And we're not doing the mailbag. We're doing mail with the post office. Who's our favorite male friend? Do you remember?
I think it starts with a P.
It is. Peter Von Panda every week. And now, like I said, we're going to turn these into giveaways. This one I think is going to be one of the hottest ones we got. People are going to clamor for this one here. I'm going to pop it open, and I'll read the note on it first here, because this is some sharp stuff. Super stylish. This is one of those things that people are going to get trampled at Walmart for on Christmas. All right. He said you're going to want to put your valuables in this, and I'm not going to say what it is yet, so you don't get robbed like we did by the Chiefs. Apparently, we give the Chiefs everything and take from the Lions everything. We earned a win by 2 TDs. Detroit versus everybody. Peter Von Panda, look at this stylish fanny pack.
Ooh.
We're going to see a lot of. Think about this. You're going to the game. You got your tickets back here, right?
If the Lions play in London next year, make sure if you win that, you take that and wear that there. That's a fashion statement.
Get your sunglasses right here. Your flask right here.
Make sure that you refer to it as a fanny pack as often as possible over there. Yeah.
Really, really nice work. Good stuff from Peter Von Panda. Remember, check him out. Peter Von Panda. He's at youtube.com/Peter Von Panda. Some of the greatest YouTube reviews you're going to see. I swear, before you do the Amazon link, hit Peter Von Panda's YouTube channel. You're going to see anything. I mean, it's some of the most eclectic mix of things, but at the same time, it's like everything. It's like going to Amazon because they have everything. He's reviewed everything, right? I mean, you name it. And then it's interspersed with all kinds of great stuff. YouTube.com/Peter Von Panda. He's awesome. He calls in on our post-game show. He gives us much, much love. Go to his site. He's over 85,000 subscribers now. Really, really cool stuff. So check him out. YouTube.com/Peter Von Panda. And if you don't laugh, I'll give you every dollar back that you spent on this show this week. Except if you're a Patreon person. All right. So we got this thing that we do every now and then. We talked today about our threat assessment, and then we went and did it without packaging it right. So if we're going to do something, I think we've probably just got to really pull out the package and take you around the division. Oh, that's good video case. That's good. Are you okay? Did you just concuss yourself?
Aneurysm.
I think I saw your brain pop against the side of your skull.
I'm not as young as I used to be.
Or maybe as smart. How many have you had? How many concussions have you had so far already in real life?
It would depend on... I don't know for sure how many of them were full-on concussions, but at least 4 is possibly as many as 10.
Yeah, don't shake your head like that anymore. I think it's a little loose in there.
I just like to use my face like as a to lead my face, in various sports. I thought my face was better than my hands. So
indoor sports alone. That's when you do that. Okay. All right. Take us around the division. Where do you want to start? You want to start down at the bottom with the
well, and I think we can probably. I mean, I don't think there's anything left to say about the Packers, so we can just leave them out. But we could go to the Bears first. And boy, that was gratifying.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah.
I know everyone's tired of this joke, but I still love. I think Chase Daniels is my favorite quarterback in the league, just because his name tells you exactly what to do to him.
I liked the Lol Bears. That I was able to revive that meme this week. It was really, really great. They had that little bit of hope there.
And I don't think the Raiders are straight up as bad as I thought they might be. But I still don't think they're a good team. And I think that the Bears collapse on offense. And the fascinating part is how long Mitch Trubisky will be out and whether or not that even improves their offense when he comes back. Because obviously their offense wasn't exactly lighting it up, on all cylinders before he went out. They had one good week with him.
You know where I think the Raiders are? Sorry, just because they're coming up here soon. I think they're a team. They're a good young team, right? But that makes them dangerous because a young team really starts to believe when they find success. So we could be hitting them at a pretty tough time if they find a little bit of success here in the near term. But you're right. They're probably better than we thought, but they're still a young team. And I think they're going to ebb and flow a little bit from week to week in the emotion of the day. So we'll see.
My theory on John Gruden is that he wears thin on everybody, though. So
knock wood if you think he wears thin.
Through this year, he may be able to get away with that personality. We've seen it other places. Bruce Arians wears thin on people. Chip Kelly wears thin on people. Jim Harbaugh wears thin on people.
What's he got? 8-9 years left in that contract?
Oh, Jesus. Who are you talking about, Jim Harbaugh or John Gruden? Because
Gruden's grinder.
So those are coaches to me that are capable of coming in and immediately making something happen or look like something is happening. But they have a hard time with staying power because they have a hard time, guys who've been around them for long enough get really irritated, that kind of thing. That's my thought on him, which means that, yes, this year the Raiders could be tougher than I expected, because I think it's a weird things going on down there. I did love Josh Jacobs coming out of the draft. I thought he was my favorite back in the draft by a long shot. I thought perhaps they overdrafted him where they drafted him. Yeah, perhaps they overdrafted him, but at the same time, I don't. It's clearly paying dividends, and that's what happens with when a rookie running back is really good. They have a major positive impact on the team right away. They might not have a positive impact on the team long term, but that is the potential of a rookie running back. So, I mean, they're interesting, but we don't need to go any further into the Raiders. The Bears are just their offense. It is terrible. Their defense isn't as good as it was last year. Of course. How could it have been? Who called that? I mean, it's still really good. It's still really good, and it's going to win them some games. And when we face them, I'm going to be worried about their defense. I don't mean to say that any other possible way, but it's not as good as it was last year. And there's no shock in that because you can't maintain that level.
You can't.
Unless you're the Patriots, and even they have ebbs and flows on their offense and defense. Their just overall team is so consistent, but it's just so incredibly difficult to maintain what they were able to do. I should have checked before we did this on what their turnover stats are, but I can't imagine that their fumble recoveries are on pace, even remotely on pace for what they had last year.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I think that what we're looking at here is a testament, at least in today's NFL, in the concept of going all in free agency and giving up your draft to try to win one now, because you can see some real great examples in our division in Minnesota and Chicago of teams that have gone all in. I laugh about the Bears haven't picked in the first round since they got Biscuit, right? And they're not picking the first round next year even. They don't have much time before they get cap hurt and they start losing these players. And they got no young players developing. They haven't been.
Well, the Rams are another example.
Yeah. You're just not seeing that happen, and it feels like a swing and the miss for the Bears for sure. And it's starting to wear. You're starting to see Minnesota. I mean, they won this week against the Giants, right? But I don't think that's
the Giants.
A big stellar kind of a thing. Danny Dimes is still Danny Dimes, right?
I will talk about their offense and how there is potential there now if they get a little confidence. But
yeah, they don't have much time either. And then that's going to start breaking apart. Now they've been able to draft some young talent, and they'll be in a little bit better shape. But again, you look at the approach, and you compare that and contrast it with what Bob Quinn's doing, right? Where it's a slower approach, right? But it is a more long-term and broader success rate than look. Khalil Mack is the guy. Danny Trevathan, of course. The defense is great, but it's all about Mack right now. And if Mack isn't moving and doing his thing, the rest of it is a little bit starts to get suspect. So we'll see. I'm not saying they're bad and they're solely reliant on Mack, but without Mack, if Mack wasn't playing, they'd be in a world of hurt on that defense.
Mm-hmm. I think the two best things that have happened to the Lions as far as the division is concerned so far this year is obviously the Eagles beating the Packers, but also the Bears beating the Vikings, because when the Bears beat the Vikings, it was a sign that the Vikings offense can't function against a top tier defense. It was also a sign later on when the Bears lost to Raiders that, I mean, just from a statistics standpoint, then you've got both of those teams down a game. But also that their offense is so terrible that the Vikings should have been able to shut them out and couldn't. Mm-hmm. It's talking about the Vikings, though. I mean, I do think their issue, obviously, so far, the talking point was the confidence in the offense between Kirk Cousins and his receivers. That was the big hubbub. And obviously, this week they had a good performance. Thielen got his. Diggs still didn't really get his, but it would be weird. That is maybe the big question mark, is how does he react to not getting fed while the team is still winning? Yeah. Does he react to that in a positive way because the team won, or does he still harboring a grudge because they won, but it had nothing to do with his performance.
Yes, let the hate
so
flow
it is
through
interesting.
you.
It is interesting.
My favorite line from Star Trek.
Right. Yeah. Oof. Ouch.
I love doing that to you. I love doing that to you.
My feels.
One of these times you're going to wear that R2-D2 onesie on the video and people are going to realize.
It's a stormtrooper onesie.
Yeah, whatever.
I'll do it. I'll do it this winter. It's too hot in here right now, but during the winter, I'll pull open the patio door and wear it during the show.
I'll wear some Spock ears to really
perfect.
Activate your almonds a little bit.
Anyway, the Vikings defense did a great job against the Giants, but once again, it is not how many times in the history of young quarterbacks have we seen a young quarterback come out, or even a backup quarterback like we saw with Chase Daniels the first time that he filled in this year, come out and have a really good game on their first game, and then immediately regress back to expectation. That's what happened with.
I have a friend. Well, he's a colleague, but he's become a friend. Works for another company. We do a kind of a benchmarking call, like an industry call, just shoot the shit every other week. And he was at the Giants game, and he's a Giants fan. And he said, "Yeah, no, I understand." He's very realistic about the team that he has, but he said that Danny threw a couple of really beautiful passes, like laid some real nice ones in there that he has. He's like, "Look, I know the team isn't there now. I got questions about Gettleman and everything else." He said, "But this guy is a lot better than what I thought he was going to be, and really could turn into something." So it'll be interesting to see if he gets the players around him. But again, I don't look to him, my friend here, for super analysis, but it's interesting to see that somebody on the spot saw some really, really good stuff out of him, and that's against the Vikings defense that is not a bad defense.
Yeah, and I'm not out here to say that Danny can't do it.
But not
I'm just saying that how many times have we seen that where a guy surprises the opposing team because they're not expecting what they throw at him.
Yep.
We've seen it time and time again, and we've seen it. Seen it over full seasons too. And then a guy comes back the next season and things start to calm down. Not to overreact to what's going on with Mahomes, but that may be something we see as the season goes on with Mahomes. And I'm not saying Mahomes still isn't going to be an incredible quarterback, but we're already seeing his per game, stat lines start to dip. And if that continued, you could say, okay, well, that's, we overreacted to something new that nobody's seen and wasn't expecting. And now that everybody's expecting it, they can specifically game plan for it. And unless the Chiefs adjust the way they use him and get more diverse and try new things, then they're going to get stuck in a rut of doing the same thing over and over again, and everybody's going to know what they're doing. Where have we heard that before? Detroit, where everybody fucking knew what we were doing for years. So
I'll talk a little bit about that too. I mean, the other part is the mental game is big in the NFL. It's really big, and you got a young quarterback like that. A lot of that, the ads. Now he's doing the State Farm stuff with Mr. Smugface. Those kinds of things and that constant that builds you up in your own mind. You believe your own press, and good play begets good play. When you're doing well, you're going to continue to do well, and you're going to trend towards doing well because your confidence is up. A big part of how you play is how confident you are. We talk about Stafford windows when he was able to make some of those passes, and then they kind of neutered that out of him a little bit in the Caldwell years and the Cooter years, where it wasn't until we were doing comeback games that he was able to go back into and do his thing. You look at Mahomes and he believes he can put that ball there, and he takes the chance to do it, and he's surrounded by a team that gives him the opportunity to do those things. If other teams start playing him hard, it starts hitting your confidence, and he's young enough where you could affect this guy's career. You can affect it both positively and negatively by him outplaying consistently or being outplayed consistently. So watch Patrick Mahomes. He may be a real interesting kind of cat that kind of defines this kind of player in the NFL, how they, how success and failure of a team around them affects their specific play.
Well, and he specifically came out and said, the Lions did the same thing, the Colts did the same thing, the Patriots did against him in the playoffs last year, which was play man to man almost exclusively, and that's not what he's used to seeing. And if that is how everybody learns how to play against him, they have to learn to overcome that. No, I mean, I do think Tyreek Hill is a big part of them beating that when he comes back. But at the same time, if he can't run rampant on every team because they all know the best way to slow him down, once somebody has figured it out, it becomes his career averages are not going to hold up. He's on pace. I mean, he's on pace through less than a year and a half starting to be the greatest quarterback of all time. That's not going to hold up. I mean, he could be the greatest quarterback of all time, but what I'm saying is, unless they make adjustments for how they want to play things, his averages are going to come down. He's going to look like a very talented dude
with a hell of an arm
who can't do everything on his own.
Yep. There you go. All right. Anything, since we're still talking about Minnesota, is there anything else you want to say?
No, Dalvin Cook sucks.
Yeah, God, I hate him. Oh man, hopefully
Kyle Rudolph might be missing a little time. I'll have to check in on that tomorrow. I just remember him leaving the game, so we'll check in on that.
All right, cool. All right, with that, we're going to call it a week. Thank you. This show, remember, we need your involvement. We look for your comments in the subreddit to give us that feedback. That rocks our world when you do that. Also, don't forget about us on Patreon. You want to really rock our world? Head to patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. We'll get you signed up for that Slack immediately. It's an automated system. We like to make things like that. And you can get in and you can start talking with the most intelligent chant on the internet. As little as $1 a month or more will get you access to that and the greatest appreciation. Case, Chris, Riz, Sandman, and we're all there. We all hang out there with a bunch of people. It's a good place. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram. Facebook is facebook.com/The Detroit Lions Podcast. On Instagram is Detroit Lions Podcast. And on the Twitter at DET Lions Podcast. DET Lions Podcast. The very, very best place to see Case
with no pants on.
Give us a call via Skype, Detroit Lions Podcast, all one word, Detroit Lions Podcast, or call us in the Lions line at 929-33-LIONS. It's 929-335-4667. And be sure to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Subscribe to the podcast. We can show up in your ear holes every time we talk automatically. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, we'll see you next time on the Detroit Lions Podcast. No pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no problems, because we're your Detroit Lions and Reddit connection, baby.